The afternoon sun hits the concrete like a furnace. Los Angeles, 1967. A small house on a quiet street in Culver City, the kind of neighborhood where sprinklers hiss on dry lawns and children ride bicycles past driveways cracked by tree roots. Nothing special, nothing remarkable, just another suburban block in a city full of them. But inside this house, something different lives. The backyard has been converted into a training space. A heavy bag hangs from a rusted chain bolted into a wooden beam. A Mook Jong, a Wing Chun wooden dummy, stands in the corner, its arms worn smooth from thousands of strikes. The grass has been beaten flat, killed by footwork, by movement, by years of someone pacing and pivoting and throwing techniques at invisible opponents. This is Bruce Lee's home, not the movie star Bruce Lee. Not yet. That version doesn't exist in 1967. This Bruce Lee is a martial arts instructor who runs a small school in Chinatown, teaches private students in his backyard, makes a little money from a television role that already got cancelled. He played Kato in The Green Hornet, wore a mask, did all his own stunts. The show lasted one season. Hollywood told him America wasn't ready for a Chinese leading man, told him to wait. Be patient. Your time will come. Bruce Lee is not a patient man. He is 5'7", 135 pounds, every ounce of it functional, not bodybuilder muscle, not gym muscle, fighting muscle, the kind that comes from hitting things 10,000 times until the movement becomes part of your nervous system. His forearms look like twisted steel cables. His lats flare wide, giving his small frame a cobra-like silhouette. His waist is 26 inches. His fists are calloused, scarred, perpetually bruised. He can throw 9 punches in a single second. His sidekick generates enough force to send a 200-pound man flying backward 6 feet. His 1-inch punch, delivered from a distance most people can't even generate a push from, hits like a sledgehammer. He is, by every measurable standard, the most dangerous unarmed human being alive. But nobody knows that yet. Not really. His students know. The handful of people who have trained with him, sparred with him, felt his speed and power firsthand. They know, but the world doesn't. The world sees a cancelled TV actor, a Chinese guy who teaches karate in his backyard. Nobody special. Today is a Tuesday, training day. Bruce stands in his backyard wearing a simple black t-shirt and dark pants, barefoot on the dead grass. He's waiting for a student, a new student, someone referred by Mito Uehara, the editor of Black Belt magazine. Mito called last night, excited, said he was sending someone over, someone special. Bruce asked who. Mito said a basketball player, UCLA, Lou Alcindor. Bruce didn't react. He doesn't watch basketball, doesn't follow sports, doesn't care about fame or status in arenas that aren't his own. He asked Mito one question. How tall is he? Mito said 7 feet 2 inches. Bruce paused, asked Linda to bring a tape measure. He stood on a chair and dropped the tape from the ceiling to the floor, stared at the measurement. 7 feet 2 inches, almost 2 feet taller than him. Bruce looked at the tape, looked at Linda and laughed. Then he said something that only Bruce Lee would say. I wonder how fast he is. Because size didn't concern Bruce Lee. Speed concerned him. Timing concerned him. The ability to close distance and deliver force at the right moment, that concerned him. A man being tall just meant his legs were longer targets. A man being heavy just meant he would fall harder. Mito assured Bruce that this Alcindor was one of the best athletes in the world, very fast for his size, coordinated, powerful. Bruce considered this for exactly 2 seconds. Then he smiled that cocky smile, the one that people either loved or wanted to punch off his face, and said to Mito with absolute certainty, complete confidence, and not a trace of doubt. He would have no chance with me. I would break his legs before he could do anything else. That was Bruce Lee in 1967, confident to the point of arrogance, skilled to the point of frightening, waiting in his backyard for a giant he'd never met, already planning how to fight him. A car pulls up outside, engine cuts, door opens, closes, footsteps on the driveway. Heavy footsteps. Bruce hears them from the backyard and knows immediately. This man is large. The footsteps have weight behind them. Not fat weight. Structural weight. The weight of a frame built by genetics and refined by athletics. Linda opens the front door, and then she looks up, and keeps looking up. Standing in the doorway is the tallest human being she has ever seen in person. Lou Alcindor, 20 years old, 7 feet 2 inches, 230 pounds of lean, coordinated young muscle. He has to duck to get through the doorframe. His head nearly brushes the ceiling of the hallway. His hands are enormous. His wingspan stretches wider than most people are tall. He's wearing simple clothes, casual, a button-up shirt that still looks too short in the sleeves, pants that don't quite reach his ankles. Finding clothes that fit when you're 7'2" is a daily battle nobody thinks about. Linda leads him through the house to the backyard. Bruce is standing by the heavy bag, arms crossed, watching, calculating. This is what Bruce Lee does. He doesn't just see people, he reads them, reads their posture, their center of gravity, their movement patterns, their weaknesses. He can tell how someone fights by the way they walk, can identify a trained martial artist by the way they stand in a doorway, can spot fear, confidence, aggression, and submission in the first 3 seconds of meeting someone. Lou Alcindor walks into the backyard and Bruce reads everything. Long limbs, incredible reach advantage. Fast for his size, you can see it in the way he moves, fluid, not stiff, not lumbering like most tall men. His center of gravity is high, which means he could be swept, could be unbalanced, but getting close enough to do it would mean passing through those arms, those legs, that enormous range. Bruce looks at Alcindor. Alcindor looks down at Bruce. Way down. The height difference is almost comical. Bruce's head barely reaches Alcindor's chest. If Alcindor extended his arm straight out, Bruce would have to take 2 full steps just to reach his body. This is the single biggest size mismatch Bruce Lee has ever faced in person. Not in a movie, not in theory, in his backyard, in real life. They greet each other. Bruce smiles, that broad, warm smile that disarms everyone. He greeted me with a broad smile and friendly demeanor, and right away I knew this was not a scowling teacher from Japanese films demanding bowing obedience, Alcindor later recalled. They talk. Basketball first. Bruce asks questions, not because he cares about basketball, but because he cares about understanding people, how they think, what drives them, what scares them. Alcindor is guarded at first. He's used to people wanting something from him, used to reporters twisting his words, used to coaches using him, used to fans seeing his height before they see his humanity. But Bruce isn't interested in his height. Bruce is interested in his mind. They talk for 30 minutes before Bruce mentions fighting, before any technique, any demonstration, any physical assessment. 30 minutes of conversation, philosophy, religion. Alcindor is surprised. This isn't what he expected from a martial arts teacher. He expected drills, forms, discipline. Instead, he's getting a conversation about the nature of combat, the philosophy of movement, the relationship between body and mind. Then Bruce shifts. Time to work. He asks Alcindor to hit the heavy bag. Punch it. Kick it. Whatever feels natural. Alcindor steps up, throws a few punches. They're long, reaching, powerful in a raw way. No technique, no structure. Just athletic ability applied to striking. The bag moves. Of course it moves. The man is 7'2" and 230 pounds. Everything he touches moves. Bruce watches. Says nothing. Then he does something unexpected. He calls Linda over. Linda Lee, 5'2", maybe 105 pounds. Bruce's wife, his longest-running student, his training partner. Bruce tells Alcindor to hold a pad against his chest. Alcindor takes the pad, looks at Linda, looks at Bruce. He almost laughs. Bruce, I don't think this will work. I'm 2 feet taller and 100 pounds heavier than Linda. Linda grins. Steps into position. Your chest, she says, pointing at the pad. Do you want Bruce to show you where that is? Alcindor raises the pad. Bruce nods at Linda. What happens next changes everything. Linda fires a kick. One kick. It hits the pad dead center. The impact doesn't just move the pad. It moves Alcindor. All 7 feet 2 inches of him, rocks him backward, rearranges his spine, shifts his entire understanding of what a small person can do to a large person. Alcindor stands there, stunned, sore where the kick connected, staring at this small woman who just moved a mountain. Bruce and Linda stand side by side, smiling at the shocked expression on the biggest man in college basketball. Alcindor looks at Bruce, looks at Linda, looks back at Bruce, says the only words that make sense. "Okay, teach me that." And Bruce Lee smiles, because this is the moment he was waiting for. Not the demonstration, not the impressed reaction, the willingness to learn. The training begins the following Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that, and every Tuesday for the next 4 years. Alcindor drives to Bruce's house in Culver City, parks on the quiet street, ducks through the front door, walks to the backyard, and for 2 hours the tallest man in college basketball learns to fight from the smallest teacher he's ever had. Bruce teaches him Jeet Kune, do footwork first, the foundation of everything, how to move without telegraphing, how to shift weight without losing balance, how to close distance in a single explosive step. Alcindor struggles at first. His body is built for basketball. Vertical movement, jumping, reaching, pivoting. Fighting requires horizontal movement, lateral angles, level changes, using your body as a weapon instead of a tool for putting a ball through a hoop. Bruce is patient but demanding. He doesn't yell, doesn't scream, doesn't insult. He demonstrates, explains, and then expects perfection. If you can't do it slowly, you can't do it fast, he tells Alcindor. If you can't do it fast, you can't do it in a fight. They work the mukjong together, the wooden dummy. Bruce shows Alcindor how to trap, how to redirect, how to use an opponent's energy against them. Wing Chun principles applied to a body that towers over every opponent it will ever face. But Bruce quickly realizes something. His traditional Wing Chun techniques don't work on Alcindor. Chi Sao, the sticky hands exercise, is nearly impossible when your training partner's belly button is at your eye level. Bruce can't reach Alcindor's centerline without overextending, can't trap his arms without jumping, can't apply the close-range principles that define Wing Chun when close range means standing inside the reach of a 7-foot giant. This would frustrate most teachers. Most teachers would force the student to adapt to the system, make the tall man shrink to fit the style, bend the student to match the art. Bruce Lee is not most teachers. Instead of forcing Alcindor into Wing Chun, Bruce adapts, changes his approach, modifies the techniques, starts developing new strategies specifically designed for someone with Alcindor's physical advantages. Long-range kicks, extended punches, using height and reach as weapons instead of obstacles. This is the moment that separates Bruce Lee from every other martial arts instructor in history. He doesn't serve the style serves the fighter. He calls Taki Kimura his most trusted student and tells him to stop emphasizing Chi Sao in the school. The technique is limited, Bruce says. It doesn't work against everyone. We need to evolve. They spar regularly. Bruce and Alcindor, 5'7" versus 7'2", 135 pounds versus 230 pounds. It looks absurd, like a house cat fighting a giraffe. But when they move, the absurdity disappears. Bruce is everywhere and nowhere, inside, outside, above, below, moving at speeds that Alcindor's eyes can barely track. His hands appear and vanish like something from a magic act. One moment Bruce is 3 feet away. The next moment his fist is an inch from Alcindor's ribs. No telegraphing, no wind-up, no warning. Just sudden, explosive, terrifying speed. But Alcindor learns. Slowly, steadily he begins to understand. Bruce shows him how to harness his chi, his life force, the energy that flows through every living thing. He teaches him to control it, summon it, direct it. Alcindor notices the change on the basketball court first. Things that used to happen fast now seem slow. Defenders closing in on him appear to move through water. He can see plays developing before they happen, can anticipate passes, cuts, screens. The game decelerates. I was quite amazed to find, after working with Bruce, that when I really had my presence of mind, when I did control my life force, things came at me in slow motion with plenty of time to get out of the way, Alcindor later recalled. Bruce gives him a book, Miyamoto Musashi's Book of Five Rings, the Bible of Japanese swordsmanship. Alcindor gives Bruce books on Islam and British imperialism. They eat together in Chinatown, never pay for meals because everyone is a UCLA fan. Bruce takes Alcindor to eat in the kitchen of restaurants, joking that it guarantees they aren't getting the garbage served to the regular customers. But really he's shielding the big man from autograph seekers, protecting his privacy. Something Bruce understands deeply because he craves it himself. They become friends, real friends, not teacher and student, not celebrity and athlete, two men who understand isolation, discrimination, and the burden of being different in a world that demands conformity. September 1972. 5 years have passed since that first meeting in the backyard. Everything has changed. Bruce Lee is no longer the unknown instructor teaching in Chinatown. He went to Hong Kong, made 2 films, The Big Boss and Fist of Fury. Both shattered every box office record in Asian cinema history. He is now the biggest movie star in the Eastern Hemisphere. Millions of people know his name. Millions more want to. Hollywood is calling again. This time, they're not offering sidekick roles. This time, they're begging. Lou Alcindor is no longer Lou Alcindor. He converted to Islam, changed his name. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, noble servant of the powerful. He's been in the NBA for 3 years now, already the most dominant center the league has ever seen. His skyhook is unstoppable. The shot he developed after watching Zatoichi films, after training with Bruce, after learning that precision beats power and timing beats speed. He's a champion, an all-star, a force that opposing teams game plan around but cannot contain. Bruce calls Kareem on a Thursday evening. The conversation is casual at first. How's the season going? How's the family? How's training? Then Bruce shifts. His voice changes, gets that edge it gets when he's excited about something, when an idea has taken hold of his mind and won't let go. I'm making a new film, Bruce says, different from anything before. It's called Game of Death. The concept is simple but revolutionary. A martial artist must fight his way up a 5-story pagoda. Each floor has a guardian. Each guardian represents a different fighting style. Each fight is harder than the last. The final floor, the top of the pagoda. That's where the ultimate challenge waits, the biggest, most physically imposing opponent imaginable. Someone who represents everything that should be impossible to defeat. Size, reach, power, athletic ability beyond anything normal. I want you to be the guardian of the final floor, Bruce says. Kareem is quiet for a moment. You want me to fight you in a movie. I want you to try to kill me in a movie, Bruce corrects. There's a difference. Kareem laughs, that deep, rumbling laugh that starts in his chest and rolls out like distant thunder. When do we start? 3 weeks later, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar walks onto a film set in Hong Kong. The pagoda interior has been constructed inside a studio. Wooden floors, paper walls, dim lighting that casts long shadows. The atmosphere is nothing like a basketball arena. No crowd noise, no sneakers squeaking on hardwood. Just the hum of film equipment and the quiet intensity of Bruce Lee in director mode. Bruce has thought about this scene for years, has choreographed every movement in his mind, every strike, every block, every moment where size threatens to overwhelm skill, every moment where skill finds a way through. He shows Kareem the choreography, walks him through it step by step. But this isn't like their backyard training sessions. This is performance. This is cinema. Every technique needs to look real but be controlled. Every strike needs to almost land. Every moment of danger needs to feel genuine without anyone actually getting hurt. They rehearse for hours, days. Bruce is meticulous, obsessive, demands take after take. The angle of the kick isn't right. The timing of the block is off by a fraction. The expression on Kareem's face doesn't convey enough menace. Again. One more time. Again. Kareem understands. This is the same Bruce from the backyard. The same demanding teacher who expects perfection. The same man who told him if you can't do it slowly, you can't do it fast. The same philosophy applied to a different arena. During breaks between takes, they sit on the wooden pagoda floor and talk, just like the old days. Philosophy, religion, life. Bruce tells Kareem about his frustrations with Hollywood, how they wanted to make his character a sidekick in a show called The Warrior, a concept Bruce himself created, how they gave the lead role to a white actor instead, how the show became Kung Fu starring David Carradine and Bruce's name appeared nowhere. Kareem tells Bruce about the racism in the NBA, how sports writers call him ungrateful because he speaks his mind, how fans send death threats because he's Muslim, how America celebrates black athletes when they score points but silences them when they have opinions. Two men, different worlds. Same fight. The fight to be seen as complete human beings in industries that want to reduce them to their physical abilities. Bruce, the Chinese action hero, who dares to have a philosophy. Kareem, the black basketball giant, who dares to have a voice. The cameras roll. The pagoda set is hot under the studio lights. Bruce Lee stands at the bottom of a wooden staircase wearing his iconic yellow jumpsuit with black stripes. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar waits at the top, barefoot, wearing a white guy, sunglasses covering his eyes, 7 feet 2 inches of controlled menace standing in dim golden light. Bruce climbs the stairs, pushes open the door to the final floor, and sees Kareem for the first time on camera. The size difference hits the audience like a physical blow. Bruce looks like a child standing next to a building. His head barely reaches Kareem's chest. His fist could strike Kareem's body, but his face is a distant target, high above, protected by arms that stretch longer than Bruce's entire torso. This is the moment the film has been building toward. Every floor of the pagoda has tested a different skill: speed, technique, flexibility, aggression. But this floor tests something deeper. This floor tests whether skill can overcome the impossible, whether a small man with perfect technique can defeat a giant with reach, power, and athletic ability that defies logic. They begin. Kareem moves first, a front kick that covers distance like a telephone pole swinging through the air. Bruce ducks under it, feels the wind pass over his head. The kick would have caved in his chest if it connected. That's not choreography. That's physics. A 7'2" man's leg generates force that no amount of blocking can absorb. You don't block that kick, you avoid it, or you break. Bruce retaliates, fires a combination at Kareem's midsection. Fast, blinding fast. His fists are a blur of knuckles and intent. But Kareem's arms come down. Long arms, arms that create a shield Bruce can't penetrate from the outside. The strikes land on forearms instead of ribs. Absorbed, neutralized, rendered useless by simple geometry. Reach beats speed when reach is used correctly. Bruce resets, thinks. This is the problem he's been solving his entire career. Not just for this film, for martial arts itself. What do you do when your opponent is bigger, stronger, longer, and faster than they have any right to be? What do you do when every conventional approach fails? You adapt. Bruce changes levels, drops low, attacks Kareem's legs. The one area where reach advantage disappears, where the giant becomes vulnerable, where 7 feet 2 inches of height becomes 7 feet 2 inches of target. Kareem feels it, the kicks to his thighs, sharp, precise, hitting the nerves that run along the outside of the quadriceps. Each kick is a small explosion of pain, not enough to drop him. Not yet, but cumulative, building, each one weakening the foundation that holds up the tower. Bruce is patient, doesn't rush, doesn't try to end it with one dramatic technique. This isn't a movie fantasy where the small guy lands one magical punch and the giant falls. This is strategy, systematic destruction, taking apart the machine piece by piece. Kareem adapts, uses his reach to create distance, pushes Bruce away with palm strikes that cover half the room, grabs at him with hands big enough to palm a basketball and certainly big enough to palm a human skull. And then it happens. The moment the title promised, the moment everyone came to see. Kareem reaches down with one massive hand and grabs Bruce Lee by the neck, one hand wrapped completely around Bruce's throat, fingers meeting at the back, lifting slightly, not enough to take Bruce off the ground, but enough to control him, enough to show the power differential, enough to make every person watching understand that this giant could end this fight with one squeeze. Bruce's feet are still on the ground, but his movement is restricted. His head is locked in place. His windpipe is compressed under fingers that are used to gripping leather basketballs with casual ease. A human throat requires significantly less pressure. The set goes quiet. The crew watches. Even the cameraman holds his breath behind the viewfinder. Bruce Lee is caught, trapped, held by the throat like a rag doll in the grip of something enormous. His arms can reach Kareem's body, but what good are punches when a hand is crushing your airway? His legs can kick, but the angle is wrong, the distance is wrong, everything is wrong. This is the nightmare scenario for any small fighter. Caught by a giant, controlled by pure physical dominance. No technique can save you when a hand that large has your throat. Bruce Lee hangs in Kareem's grip for exactly 2 seconds. 2 seconds that feel like 2 hours. His eyes don't panic. His body doesn't thrash. His hands don't claw at the fingers around his throat like a desperate man fighting for air. Instead, something happens behind those eyes. A calculation. A decision. The same process that has defined Bruce Lee's entire approach to combat. When force meets force, the stronger force wins. When technique meets force, the outcome changes. When intelligence meets force, force becomes irrelevant. Bruce doesn't fight the grip, doesn't try to pry open fingers that are stronger than his entire hand, doesn't waste energy on the obvious, desperate, instinctive response that any normal person would attempt. Instead, he does something nobody expects. His right hand comes up. Not to Kareem's hand, not to the wrist, not to any part of the arm that's holding him. His fingers extend, flatten, form a precise blade of flesh and bone. And in one fluid motion, faster than the eye can process, Bruce Lee strikes Kareem Abdul-Jabbar directly in the armpit. The soft tissue under the arm, the nerve cluster that runs through the axillary region. The spot where no amount of muscle, no amount of size, no amount of athletic conditioning can protect you. Pure anatomy, pure knowledge, pure Bruce Lee. The effect is instantaneous. Kareem's hand opens involuntarily. Not because he chose to release, because his nervous system made the choice for him. The nerve strike short-circuited the signal between brain and grip. His fingers lost their strength for a fraction of a second. A fraction is all Bruce needs. He drops free, spins, creates distance, resets. Kareem stands there, arm hanging, a look of genuine surprise on his face behind those sunglasses. That wasn't fully choreographed. The strike was real, pulled back, controlled, but real enough to trigger the nerve response. Bruce wanted authentic reaction, wanted the camera to capture genuine surprise, not acting. This is what separates Bruce Lee's fight scenes from every other martial arts film in history. The reactions are real because the techniques are real. The pain is real because the strikes are real. The fear is real because Bruce Lee is real. The director yells cut. The crew exhales. Kareem shakes his arm, feeling the tingling sensation running from armpit to fingertips. Looks down at Bruce with an expression that mixes annoyance with admiration. "You actually hit me." "I needed the reaction to be authentic," Bruce says. No apology, no guilt, just the cold logic of a perfectionist who values the art above comfort. Kareem shakes his head. Same Bruce, same demanding teacher from the backyard who expected perfection regardless of the cost. They reset. Film it again. Different angle. Bruce wants coverage from every perspective, wants the audience to see the grip, feel the danger, understand the hopelessness, and then witness the escape, the intelligence of it, the precision, the knowledge that turns a death grip into nothing, take after take, hour after hour. Bruce demands more. The grip needs to be tighter, the lift needs to be higher, the moment of helplessness needs to last longer before the escape. He's building tension for an audience that doesn't exist yet, creating suspense in a scene that won't be watched for years, thinking about every viewer who will sit in a dark theatre and hold their breath when that giant hand closes around that small throat. Between takes, Kareem sits on the floor, stretching his legs across the wooden planks. Bruce sits next to him. The height difference is absurd even when sitting. Kareem's torso is longer than Bruce's entire seated body. Bruce looks up at his friend, his student, his training partner of 5 years. "You know what the audience will think when they see you grab my neck," Bruce says. They'll think it's over. They'll think there's no way out. That's the point. That's why this works. Because in real life, it would be over. If you grabbed any normal person by the throat with one hand, it's finished. They can't escape. They can't fight. They just hang there and wait. Kareem nods. So the escape has to be perfect. Has to be something they've never seen. Something that teaches them. Bruce smiles. Not just entertainment. Education. I want people to walk out of this theatre understanding that size is an advantage, not a guarantee. That every grip has a release, every lock has a key, every giant has a weakness, and every small man has a chance if he knows where to look. Kareem studies his friend's face, sees the fire there, the same fire that burned in the backyard in 1967, the same intensity, the same refusal to accept limitations. 5 years, and nothing has changed about Bruce Lee's fundamental nature. He still believes that knowledge defeats everything, that the mind is the ultimate weapon, that understanding the human body, every nerve, every pressure point, every structural weakness, is more powerful than any amount of muscle. The filming wraps after 11 days. 11 days of sweat, bruises, retakes, and perfection. The footage is extraordinary. 20 minutes of the most realistic martial arts combat ever captured on film. 2 real martial artists, 2 real friends. 1 real size difference that no special effects could manufacture. Bruce Lee versus Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 5'7" versus 7'2", the dragon versus the tower. But Bruce never finishes the film. July 20th, 1973. 10 months after filming the pagoda scene. Bruce Lee is in Hong Kong. He's at the apartment of Betty Ting Pei, a Taiwanese actress. He complains of a headache, takes a painkiller, lies down to rest, and never wakes up. He is 32 years old. The official cause is cerebral edema, swelling of the brain, an allergic reaction to the painkiller, they say. The world doesn't believe it. Conspiracy theories explode across Asia. Poison, assassination, the touch of death, ancient Chinese curse. Rival martial artists who couldn't defeat him in life found another way. None of it is true. The truth is simpler and more devastating. Bruce Lee's body, the most finely tuned human weapon ever created, betrayed him. The machine broke down. The engine that powered 9 punches per second, the legs that generated kicks capable of launching 200-pound men across rooms, the nervous system that processed combat at speeds no other human could match, all of it stopped, permanently. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is driving to visit Bruce when he hears the news on the radio. He pulls over, sits in the car. The biggest man in professional basketball suddenly feels very small. He was 32 and I was 25, Kareem later wrote. He had been not only my martial arts teacher but my close friend, and I was still young enough to not yet have experienced much profound loss in my life, which is why his death hit me so hard. I felt like I'd tumbled overboard from a ship that had sailed on without me. I was alone in a vast, dark ocean, bobbing up and down in turbulent waves, struggling to tread water. The pagoda footage sits in a vault, unfinished, unedited. 20 minutes of Bruce Lee at his absolute peak, fighting the biggest opponent of his life, demonstrating principles that would take the martial arts world decades to fully understand. 5 years later, in 1978, the studio releases Game of Death. But it's not Bruce's film. It's a Frankenstein creation. They use doubles, mirrors, cardboard cutouts of Bruce's face taped to other actors' heads. They build a new story around the 20 minutes of real footage. The result is a film that disrespects everything Bruce Lee stood for. The fight scenes with Kareem are real. Everything else is fabrication. Kareem watches the finished film in a private screening, sits in the dark theatre, sees his friend on screen alive, moving, fighting, demonstrating the principles they developed together in the backyard, and then sees the crude doubles, the fake story, the exploitation of a dead man's legacy for profit. He leaves the theatre without speaking to anyone, drives home in silence, but the 20 minutes of real footage survive, and they become legendary. The image of Bruce Lee fighting Kareem Abdul-Jabbar becomes one of the most iconic images in cinema history. The small man against the giant, the dragon against the tower, David against Goliath with kung fu instead of a slingshot. And the moment. That moment. When Kareem grabs Bruce by the neck with one hand. When the giant captures the dragon. When everything seems impossible and hopeless and finished. And Bruce Lee does something nobody expected. Finds the weakness in the grip. Strikes the nerve. Escapes the inescapable. Turns defeat into education. Turns helplessness into a lesson about human potential. That moment is replayed millions of times, studied by martial artists on every continent, analysed by fight choreographers for 50 years, referenced in films, television shows, video games, and training manuals across the world, because it captures something essential about Bruce Lee's philosophy, something he spent his entire life trying to teach. Size is not destiny. Strength is not certainty. The grip around your throat is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning of the solution. Every problem contains its own answer. Every grip contains its own release. Every giant contains his own defeat. You just have to know where to look. 50 years later, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sits in his home in Los Angeles. He is 78 years old. His body carries the evidence of decades. 6 NBA championships. 6 MVP awards. The all-time leading scorer in NBA history for nearly 4 decades, a record that stood like a monument until 2023. His knees ache. His back protests every morning. His hands, those enormous hands that once gripped Bruce Lee's throat on a pagoda set in Hong Kong, now move carefully, deliberately, with the caution of age. But his mind is sharp. His memory is vivid. And when someone asks about Bruce Lee, his eyes change. The years fall away, the pain disappears, and he is 20 years old again, standing in a backyard in Culver City, watching a small man demonstrate that size means nothing when knowledge is present. People ask him the same question every time. What was Bruce Lee really like? Kareem has answered this question 1,000 times, in interviews, in books, in documentaries, in private conversations with people who will never fully understand. But the answer never changes. He was the most dedicated human being I ever met, Kareem says. More dedicated than any basketball player. More dedicated than any athlete. He practiced one kick 10,000 times while the rest of us practiced 10,000 kicks once. That was the difference. That was always the difference. They ask about the neck grab, the moment in Game of Death, the moment when the giant's hand closed around the dragon's throat. Kareem smiles. Every time I grabbed his neck in rehearsal, he found a different way to escape, Kareem remembers. First time, he hit the nerve under my arm. Second time, he kicked the inside of my knee. Third time, he bit my wrist. I asked him why, a different escape each time. He said, because in a real fight, the same technique never works twice. Your opponent adapts. So you must adapt faster. They ask about the size difference. How it felt to tower over someone and still feel outmatched. Kareem pauses, considers the question with the same philosophical depth that Bruce taught him 50 years ago. Size gave me advantages Bruce could never have, Kareem explains. Reach, weight, leverage. In any normal confrontation, those advantages are decisive. But Bruce wasn't a normal confrontation. Bruce was a problem that size couldn't solve. Every time I used my reach, he was inside it. Every time I used my weight, he redirected it. Every time I used my leverage, he found an angle where leverage didn't apply. He made my greatest strengths irrelevant. Not by matching them, by understanding them better than I did. They ask about the last time they spoke, before July 20th, 1973, before the headache, before the painkiller, before the end. Kareem's voice softens. We talked on the phone, nothing special, just 2 friends checking in. He told me about his plans for Game of Death, how he wanted to finish it, how it would revolutionize martial arts cinema, how people would finally understand his philosophy, not just see the fighting, understand the thinking behind it. He pauses. I told him I'd come to Hong Kong when my season ended. We'd finish the film together, train together again, like the old days in the backyard. He said he'd like that, said he missed teaching, said fame was lonely and training was honest, and he preferred honest to famous. Another pause. That was the last conversation. 3 weeks later, he was gone. Kareem looks at his hands. The hands that grabbed Bruce Lee's neck, the hands that could palm a basketball and control a fight scene and hold a friend's trust for 50 years. He told me something once that I never forgot, Kareem says. We were sitting in his backyard after training. I asked him what the point of all this was. All the fighting, all the training, all the philosophy. He looked at me with that smile, that cocky, confident, irritating, beautiful smile, and he said, "The point is not to be better than everyone else. The point is to be better than you were yesterday. Every day, every technique, every thought. Better than yesterday. That's the whole system. That's Jeet Kune Do. That's life." Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sits in his home in Los Angeles, 78 years old, 6 championships, 19 NBA seasons, 1 backyard in Culver City, 1 wooden dummy, 1 small teacher who changed everything, 1 hand around a throat that became the most famous grip in cinema history, 1 escape that taught the world that size is an advantage, but knowledge is a superpower, 1 friendship that death could not end. Bruce Lee and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the dragon and the tower, the teacher and the student, the smallest man in the room and the tallest man in the world. And between them, in the space where fist met throat and philosophy met combat, lives the answer to the question that martial arts has asked for centuries. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Bruce Lee answered it in a backyard in Culver City, answered it on a pagoda set in Hong Kong, answered it with 1 strike to a nerve under a giant's arm. The unstoppable force doesn't meet the immovable object. It flows around it, through it, past it, like water. Always like water. Be water, my friend. The fight is never about size. The fight is always about understanding.